This was me in June of 2020, a few months into my first job out of college, and a couple of months into the pandemic. I wanted to learn the true way to take care of my money and build wealth. But I ran into a few problems that I'm sure you can relate to. I had years of bad money habits, and I knew absolutely nothing about money. I wasn't taught much about it growing up or at school, but luckily, I have the internet. But I quickly realized that the internet was full of get-rich-quick gurus that were just trying to sell me into their course, or these super slow methods that were geared at normal people. And I never wanted to be like normal people. I later learned that there are some things that people just don't tell us about money. But when I first started, I had no idea. I didn't know what to do. But what I did know was that if I didn't take care of my shit financially, I would have to completely abandon the life I had just started for myself if I lost my job, because there was a lot of layoffs at this time. So I did what anybody would do, and I went to YouTube. I watched countless videos that I learned from, and I even read a bunch of personal finance blogs online. Very quickly, all of my social media became filled with personal finance, and I was obsessed, so I started taking action. I started tracking my expenses and budgeting. I started investing in retirement accounts and a brokerage account, and I was doing all of the things that the personal finance people online were telling me to do. But then I realized something. I realized that the approach I was taking would give me almost exactly the same results, whether I spent 5 hours a week on it or 5 minutes a week on it. And it's not a surprise that when I first started, I had to spend a lot more time on it. But after some time, for some reason I started thinking that if I spent more time on it, I would get better results. But actually, the opposite was true. So I found ways to spend a lot less time on my budget and on my investments, and this gave me back a lot of my time, and it also freed up a lot of my mental capacity. I used that extra time to watch and listen to people like Alex Ramosi, Andy Frisella, Ed Milet, and a few others, and I learned something else. Not only was I spending way too much time on my approach, but I was also at the point where I needed to change the approach. This will sound crazy, but listening to those guys made me realize that I could do way more than a few $1,000,000. But I had to change something or I would have no chance. I had to change the way I saw money again. And by this time, I thought I had a pretty good way of seeing it. I had gone from being in debt in early 2020 to having an almost $100,000 net worth in early 2022. But the mindset that helped me do that those last 2 years would keep me from going to the next level. And this is something people won't tell you very often. And I wanted to share this lesson with you guys, that the things you learned in the past and the things that served you well in the past may not serve you well in the future and may actually hold you back. An example of something that served me well in the past but was holding me back was being so focused on investing as much money as I could into the stock market. This held me back because I invested almost no money into myself. And this is absolutely crazy to think about, because the stock market is actually a terrible way to make money that isn't 40 plus years out, and it doesn't let you build yourself and work on things that you really enjoy. And it's also crazy to think about that I wouldn't be in this financial position that I am now if it wasn't for one decision that I made in June of 2020, which I talk about in this video. You'll want to watch that video if you want to learn the one decision that changed my life and can change yours.